Hello everyone. Today we are going to start with viral zoonosis, and our today's topic is chikungunya. If you see index given in KPARC, you can find that this disease chikungunya, it is enlisted under bacterial zoonosis. But please remember, chikungunya is not a bacterial infection, it is viral infection, or it is disease of viral origin. Now let's see about this disease, and it is possible that you may come across cases of chikungunya in your practice. So may not be important for your exam, but clinically you can find cases of chikungunya. So let's start. What is chikungunya? So one thing now already you know, it is a viral infection. So how it is transmitted? So based on that we can describe our introduction to chikungunya. So chikungunya, it is basically vector-borne disease. So for transmission of this virus from infected person to new host, the vector is required, and this vector here is mosquito. So it is vector-borne disease, or we can say it is mosquito-borne disease, and it's viral infection which is caused by chikungunya virus, and it is transmitted by Aedes mosquito. There are two species of Aedes mosquito which can transmit this chikungunya virus. These species, it includes Aedes aegypti and Aedes albopictus. So viral infection caused by chikungunya virus, transmitted by either Aedes aegypti or Aedes albopictus mosquito, which are infected with this virus. And clinically, chikungunya is characterized by fever, and the most important, most characteristic feature of chikungunya is severe arthralgia or severe joint pains. So severity of joint pains is extreme, and it may be to such an extent that patient may not be able to do routine work, and posture of patient changes. So joint pains causes debility, as well as it can cause disability. So most characteristic feature, please don't forget, it is joint pains. Now let's see some historical background how this word chikungunya is derived. So basically it's a local term, and the meaning of this term is doubling up or to bend up. And why this posture is achieved right now, I said because of there is severe joint pains, or you may call it as excruciating joint pains, which causes doubling up. So this name, it has been derived from the language which is known as Kimakonde language, and in Kimakonde language the meaning of this term is to become contorted, and meaning of contort is to twist or to turn or to bend. Now what happens, because of severity of joint pains, patient is not able to maintain upright posture, and this posture changes as the joints are not able to carry weight of the person. So person shows stooped appearance, or patient may take help of something to walk. So as there is change in posture, as there is stooped appearance, or as there is bending or doubling up, which is due to arthralgia, this term is related with the meaning of bending, doubling, or it is related with the twisting. So is it clear with the historical background how the term chikungunya is derived, from which language it is derived, and why this term has been introduced? Now let's see problem statement related with chikungunya. This is the disease which is found in 60 countries, and it is mainly seen in Africa, it is seen in Latin America, even it is seen in Europe also, and of course in Asia. Regarding its first epidemic or first outbreak of this disease, so this first outbreak of chikungunya or first epidemic of chikungunya, it has been reported in the year 1952. So it's very long back period, that's what we can say. So it's middle of 20th century when first epidemic of chikungunya, it has been reported from Tanzania, and this was southern part of Tanzania which has been affected by this epidemic. Later on, again outbreak reported in the year 2013 and 2014 from France. Again, if you see recent statistical data related with chikungunya, in the year 2015, again major outbreak of chikungunya has been reported, and several countries were affected, and these countries were belonging to the regions of Americas. So simply we can say this major outbreak which affected several countries of the region Americas. And if you find the number of cases that has been reported, so separately cases were reported. So initially cases were reported on clinical background as suspected cases, and then confirmed cases have been reported. So this number is quite huge number of suspected cases. So clinically suspected cases which has been reported was 6,93,489, and out of these confirmed cases were 37,480. And as far as this region of Americas is concerned, they are having their separate organization, and name of this organization is PAHO. In International Organization chapter you are going to study this topic, so I am telling you with reference to that chapter. So PAHO abbreviation, it stands for Pan American Health Organization. So whatever these cases either suspected or confirmed, they were reported to this Pan American Health Organization. Let's see what is the scenario in India. In India, larger outbreak that has been reported in the year 2006. So in history of India related to chikungunya, the year 2006 was very important. Why? Because this was the major outbreak and it spread to many parts of India. So basically this outbreak for the first time it has been noticed in Andhra Pradesh, and from Andhra Pradesh it spread to several other areas of our country. So it spread to Tamil Nadu, to Kerala, Karnataka, then it spread to northern part of India including Delhi and even other states like Maharashtra, Gujarat, Rajasthan, Goa, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Orissa or Odisha, West Bengal, including Andaman Nicobar Islands were affected. So you can imagine the scenario how this outbreak of chikungunya, which started in the year 2006, affected India. So many parts of India has been affected, and officially reported cases during this outbreak was 1.39 million. So 1.39 million cases of chikungunya has been reported during this major outbreak which occurred in the year 2006. Now what was the scenario between the year 2006 to 2014? So during this period the clinically suspected cases declined. So in epidemiology you are supposed to know frequency of disease. So this frequency shows decline from 2006 to 2014, but again frequency changed, and this change in frequency has been noticed from the year 2015. So since 2015 in India chikungunya is showing upward trend, means cases of chikungunya are rising in India. Exact statistical data let's see. So in 2016 it is 64,057 suspected cases were reported from 28 states and union territories. Now after that, till 31st August of 2017, 28,724 suspected cases reported from 25 states and union territories, and which is the area where we can get maximum cases of chikungunya in India. So whatever these cases that has been reported in 2017, maximum cases they have been reported from Karnataka. So out of 28,724, 18,093 cases has been reported from Karnataka. So you can imagine the scenario in Karnataka, and this figure is followed in descending order by Gujarat, Maharashtra and Punjab. 3,027 cases were reported from Gujarat, 2,618 cases were reported from Maharashtra, and 993 cases were reported from Punjab. What is the current epidemiological distribution of chikungunya in India? So currently we can find there are 24 states in India and 6 union territories in India where we can find chikungunya in endemic form. Okay, so current distribution pattern is endemic, and frequency we have seen since 2015 frequency is rising. Now let's proceed further and see its epidemiological determinants. So agent of chikungunya is chikungunya virus. This virus is alpha virus and based on its viral genome it is RNA virus. So this is RNA alpha virus, or you may call it as group A virus. This virus belongs to the family Togaviridae. Again, you can recall from your microbiology syllabus. So whatever various viruses are there which belongs to this family, they are mainly arthropod borne viruses. So regarding historical background of this virus, so for the first time, as in problem statement we said, first epidemic of chikungunya, it has been reported from Tanzania, and for the first time this virus was isolated from patients also and from vector mosquito also in the year 1952 to 1953. So first isolation was related to its first epidemic which occurred in Tanzania. Now one more important thing to understand about this agent is now various these agents, they keep their natural cycle and how this natural cycle is maintained. So regarding chikungunya virus, it has wild cycle, and this wild cycle it is similar to yellow fever. So yellow fever and chikungunya fever, they both show wild cycle. Now how wild cycle is maintained? So this wild cycle it is maintained between jungle primates and mosquitoes. So here the jungle primates or wild animals, it mainly includes monkeys and apes and mosquitoes. And the important vector mosquito which is involved for maintaining this wild cycle is Aedes africanus. So in nature its wild cycle is maintained between mammals like monkeys and apes, and this is maintained by mosquito, that is Aedes africanus. Now let's proceed to the vector of this disease. So right now you know it is vector borne disease or it is mosquito borne disease. So now what you are supposed to know, which mosquito is involved in transmission of chikungunya. So Aedes is a genus, it includes two species, Aedes aegypti and Aedes albopictus. Plus Mansonia may also play important role in transmission of chikungunya. But at least one vector you must know, and the most important vector in these two is Aedes. So let's see some features related with these vectors. So Aedes aegypti, it is found in tropical areas as well as in subtropical areas. Whereas Aedes albopictus we can found in tropics also, in subtropics also, plus it is found in temperate and cold regions also. Now as far as rural urban presence of this vector is concerned, Aedes albopictus we can found in rural areas as well as in peri-urban areas. Now if you can recall the vector involved in transmission of malaria, again we have said two separate vectors for rural area and for urban area. For rural area it was mainly Anopheles culicephacis, whereas for urban areas it is Anopheles stephensi. So separate vectors. So similarly for chikungunya, Aedes albopictus we can find in rural areas also, and we can find it in peri-urban areas also. Now regarding important habit of feeding of Aedes mosquito. So Aedes mosquitoes, they are day biters, so they will prefer to bite during daytime. Now when we can find maximum activity of biting by Aedes mosquito. So maximum activity or peaks of activity, it is seen at early morning and it is seen at late afternoon period. So it's early morning and late afternoon period where Aedes will show peak activity related to its biting habit. That is Aedes aegypti as well as Aedes albopictus, they both can bite outdoors, whereas Aedes aegypti, in addition to outdoor, it can bite indoors also. Now the most important part in relation to control part of the disease is breeding places. So we must know where Aedes mosquito can breed. So it can breed wherever there is stored water. So just remember two keywords for Aedes. Anywhere for any disease, when Aedes mosquito will come, its breeding place is stored water. So whether it is artificially stored or whether it is naturally stored during rainy season. So it includes, in nature it can be coconut shells, or it can be tree holes which are present, or these can be bamboo stumps. So whatever, even these can be broken glasses, these can be vehicle tires where water may get collected, and breeding of Aedes mosquito can occur. At the same time, in houses, inside the houses, when we store water for a longer period, like in flower pots or in air coolers, so even these are the sites for breeding of Aedes mosquito. Now these breeding habits understanding is important for vector control measures. Now regarding environmental factors, in which season we can find increase in cases of chikungunya. So as you know, vector is mosquito, and most favorable season for breeding of mosquito is rainy season. So cases of chikungunya, they increase during rainy season, or disease we can find mainly during rainy season. What is mode of transmission? How chikungunya is transmitted? It can be transmitted from one host, one reservoir, which is man, to next susceptible host, that is also man. So what we will find in two links of chain of infection, first link is human or man as a reservoir. So it is a person who is in stage of viremia, and next is susceptible host, and in between the chain of transmission is by bites of infected female Aedes aegypti mosquito or infected female Aedes albopictus mosquito, or sometimes even it can be Mansonia. Now which persons they can play major role in transmission of this virus? So these are the persons, or these are the cases of chikungunya during first week of illness, or we can say during initial period of illness. uh, this is uh, these are the people which will create more risk of transmission, and the reason for this is we can find viremia during this stage or during initial period of illness. So don't forget, it's just initial period of illness when transmission of virus can occur through infected mosquitoes. Another mode of transmission which is rare but it has been reported, one is blood-borne transmission. So in blood-borne transmission, no cases has been reported through blood transfusion, but cases of chikungunya, it has been documented among laboratory workers and other healthcare workers. So laboratory workers, when they handle infected blood, they can acquire infection, or healthcare workers during the process of blood collection, they can acquire infection. So such cases have been reported or such cases have been documented. So this is rare mode of transmission which is related to blood, or we can call it as blood-borne transmission. Then third mode of transmission is again a rare transmission, so it can occur from mother to baby. So this is transplacental transmission. Now transmission can occur in utero transmission may be seen in second trimester, and even in third trimester if mother is viremic, transmission can occur, but there is no evidence of transmission of this virus through breast milk. So transplacental transmission can occur, but no transmission has been documented through breast milk. So such females can continue breastfeeding for the infants. So to recall, natural transmission is mosquito borne human to human through infected Aedes aegypti and albopictus mosquito. Second mode of transmission which is reported in healthcare workers and laboratory workers is blood-borne transmission, and third it is transplacental transmission. Clinical features. What is incubation period? Incubation period is given separately by different authors, and you may find some variation in figures. What Kepark is saying, it is 4 to 7 days, but in medicine book you may come across 2 to 4 days, and even some other references they are telling the incubation period may vary from 2 to 12 days. So on an average we can say initial 2 to 10 days is essential for incubation period. Now what clinical features we can find? So onset of disease is sudden. So chikungunya, it is characterized by sudden or abrupt onset of fever. So in these cases fever may be up to 102 degrees Fahrenheit or even more than this. Fever may be associated with chills, sometimes with conjunctivitis, anorexia, and cephalgia, that is headache, lumbago or backache, and lymphadenopathy. So once you know these things, differential diagnosis, many diseases are related with this clinical picture. Now as we said, fever may be associated with chills, conjunctivitis, anorexia, headache, backache, lymphadenopathy. The most important feature is arthralgia, or it is also called as arthropathy. So arthralgia, fever is associated or fever is accompanied by joint pains. Now joint pains, initially patient will complain of fever, and following fever within next 3 to 5 days, or on third or fourth or fifth day, patient will start complaining of joint pains. And most important triad you can find in chikungunya cases. So these joint pains, they are associated with stiffness of joint and swelling of joint. So pain will be symptom given by your patient, whereas swelling and stiffness are the signs which you can see in your patients. So don't forget the important triad, that is pain, swelling and stiffness. Whether there is involvement of single joint or whether there is involvement of multiple joints. So in majority of cases you will find multiple joints are involved. So patient will complain of pain in different joints. So it is called as polyarthralgia. So important manifestation, as we said, joint pains, and there can be polyarthralgia, and it is bilateral and symmetrical. So this joint pain, as we said, it can cause disability and it may cause debility also. Now which joints are affected? So at which joints patient may give you complaint of pain, swelling and stiffness? So these can be metacarpophalangeal joints, small joints, or metatarsal joints, wrist joint or ankle joints, or these can be elbow joints or knee joints. So different joints that are involved, so we are calling this as polyarthralgia. How long these joint pains can remain, or how long these joint pains can persist? So these joint pains may remain for few days, or in some patients it may be prolonged, and it may be prolonged to few weeks or even some months, or even in some patients these can be years also. So remember, pain may remain for several days or several weeks or several months or even for years also, and accordingly we can classify this disease as acute disease, subacute disease or chronic disease. We are discussing clinical features. So we said about fever, it is associated with lymphadenopathy, it is associated with conjunctivitis, polyarthralgia, and another important feature that you can get in chikungunya is rash. So near about 60 to 80% patients, they develop rash. This is morbidly formed rash, or it is maculopapular rash. So this rash, it is mainly seen on the trunk and it is seen on extremities, that is on exposed surfaces. So maculopapular rash, again based on rash, differential diagnosis of several diseases will come. Few cases of chikungunya may present to you with hemorrhagic manifestations, and in such cases we call it as chikungunya hemorrhagic fever. So what hemorrhagic manifestation you can come across? So there can be purpura, or there can be petechiae, or some patients may have epistaxis also, or there can be hematemesis. So coffee colored vomiting, it is suggestive of hematemesis. Now whether chikungunya cases may get complicated, can they get complicated? So complications can occur. So generally serious complications are not seen, but a few cases may get complicated, and you may find complications like neurological complications, complications related to heart or related to eyes. Now related to eyes, there can be uveitis, Related to cardiovascular complications, there can be myocarditis. Some patients may develop hepatitis. Hepatitis is a rare complication, but it may occur. And CNS complications or neurological complications, it includes myelitis, it includes meningoencephalitis, or even it may cause cranial nerve palsies. So cranial nerve palsies, if you can remember myelitis, cranial nerve palsies, we have seen it in one more disease, that is poliomyelitis. So there are various complications which are likely to occur, and again these complications are mainly seen in old age groups, that is the people who are above 65 years of age, or the persons who are having some underlying disorders like diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular diseases. So these people can develop complications. And one more condition which is again reported from certain patients is relapse, and this relapse, it is related with rheumatological symptoms. So it includes polyarthralgia, polyarthritis, or tenosynovitis. So what happens, patient may have symptom free interval, and again patient will start complaining of polyarthralgia and polyarthritis. So in majority of cases, this disease is not fatal. So self-limiting condition is there. Majority of patient will recover. But most important thing regarding outcome of chikungunya, you should have to remember that this disease causes disability and it may affect routine work of the patient. So how to diagnose cases of chikungunya? So diagnosis, it is based on isolation of virus. So for this we can take blood sample, and from this blood sample virus can be isolated. So preferably the blood sample should be collected during stage of viremia. So if blood is collected during stage of viremia, then only we can isolate the virus. Then most commonly useful tests are the serological test. So serological test will help in detection of IgM antibodies as well as IgG antibodies. And the titer of IgM antibodies, it is suggestive of chikungunya infection. Now other test what can be done is heme agglutination inhibition test, complement fixation test, RT-PCR test. So these are the laboratory tests. In addition to that, the commonly done investigations, it includes complete blood checkup, CBC. Now what findings you can get on CBC? The two most important findings here, it includes lymphopenia and it includes thrombocytopenia. Plus liver function tests are important. In liver function test you can find elevated level of creatinine if patient has developed hepatitis, or there can be elevated level of transaminases. Differential diagnosis, how we are going to differentiate chikungunya. So try to understand at clinical levels. So clinically, chikungunya is almost similar to dengue fever. So how to differentiate? Joint pains are less marked in a dengue fever patient, whereas you can find severe polyarthralgia in chikungunya, but in both cases joint pains are present. So dengue fever patients will also complain to you joint pains, whereas chikungunya cases will also complain, but duration is prolonged in chikungunya cases. The thrombocytopenia, again this is the finding which we can get in both patients, but it is more marked in dengue fever cases. Plus dengue fever cases, sometimes if we have a case of dengue hemorrhagic fever, so these cases may progress to dengue shock syndrome, and a possibility of death is more. So we can get fatal outcome in cases with dengue shock syndrome. So fatal outcome is not seen with chikungunya cases. So survival is better in chikungunya. Now another differential diagnosis is malaria. So how you can differentiate it from malaria? Malaria cases will have three stages, though clinically you cannot see all these classical three stages, but in malaria patients there are rigors, there are shaking chills, and such shaking chills you won't find in chikungunya cases. Now measles. Now why we have included measles? Because of rash. Morbilliform rash you can find in measles also, and you can find it in chikungunya also. So distribution pattern you should remember, and based on that you can differentiate. Next differential diagnosis, it includes rubella. Now rubella plus some rickettsial infections will also come in differential diagnosis. So wherever you can find lymphadenopathy. So few cases of chikungunya may present to you with lymphadenopathy. Similarly, you can find lymphadenopathy in rubella and other rickettsial infections also. But in rubella, the disease is very mild, and it is self-limiting. So within few days, patient will get recovered if patient is having rubella infection. And one more condition you should remember for differential diagnosis, that is autoimmune disease, that is rheumatoid arthritis. Now why I am saying rheumatoid arthritis for differential diagnosis? Because we said in polyarthralgia small joints like metacarpophalangeal joints are affected, and joint affection may be bilateral. So similar clinical picture you can get in rheumatoid arthritis, so where you can get mirror image. So rheumatoid arthritis, again you can find pain in small joints, and deformities are there. So all these things you should have to keep in mind whenever you are dealing with a case of chikungunya. How we are going to treat a case of chikungunya? So there is no specific antiviral drug available for treatment. Like in influenza, we said we can use amantadine, rimantadine, or oseltamivir. Or if it is a case of herpes, we can use acyclovir, famciclovir, ganciclovir. Or if you are having a case of HIV, you are having specific antiretroviral drugs. So such antiviral drugs are not available for treatment of chikungunya. So now what should be intention of our treatment? So whenever we are dealing with a case of chikungunya, the treatment should focus mainly to relieve the symptoms of our patient. So symptomatic relief is the main intention behind treatment of these patients. And what we can use for symptomatic relief? So analgesics and antipyretics can be given, and safest is paracetamol. So the best drug that can be given to these patients is paracetamol. If required, you can use other drugs like diclofenac sodium or chloroquine. Plus, if there is persistent joint pain and it is not responding to these drugs, only in these cases we can use corticosteroids. Okay, so otherwise generally corticosteroids should not be given. Corticosteroids is, it can be prednisolone or methylprednisolone. So this should not be given routinely. So unless and until your patient is not showing response to the analgesic antipyretic drugs, then and then only we can use this. Plus as we know, there is fever, and fever can cause dehydration. So the most important advice that should be given to the patient is to take plenty of fluids. Plus, if required, fluid supplementation can be given. And in addition to this, physiotherapy will also be effective. Appropriate physiotherapy should be given, and most important advice along with increased fluid intake is to take rest. So rest is the best remedy for these cases. Now how to control chikungunya? For controlling, as we said, diagnosis and treatment is one of the important control measure, and for controlling we should have to pay more attention to the vector control. Now why this is so? Why we should have to pay attention to vector? Why we should keep vector population in control? Because there is no effective vaccine available for chikungunya. That's why the entire control, it should be focused on controlling Aedes mosquito in our surrounding. So how we can do this? We can eliminate breeding places. Now you know breeding places, so elimination of breeding places. Then anti-larval measures, where we can use larvicidal agents. So these are the insecticides which kills larvae. Most important is abate. So abate can be used, and plus this should be combined with anti-adult measures. So in anti-adult measures, as you should remember, these are the mosquitoes which bite during daytime. So we can use repellents, and the repellents which contains insecticides like DEET, or which contains picaridin, or those containing lemon eucalyptus. These are effectively provides protection against mosquito bite. Another important activity that is undertaken for mosquito control is aerosol spray. So spraying should be done with malathion, and this dose of malathion, it is 250 ml per hectare. So 1 hectare area is 2.5 acres. 1 acre is 40 r, and 1 r is 1000 by 1000 square feet. So according to area we should have to select, and this spraying should be carried out twice. So initial spraying, it should get followed by second spraying after 10 days. So interval between spraying activities 10 days, and this is very effective activity because it can reduce density of adult mosquito by 98% for several weeks. So these are the various vector control measures which can effectively interrupt the transmission. Before proceeding to recap of chikungunya, let's see the details of the vector of chikungunya, that is Aedes. Aedes is name of the genus. So let's see it. In this slide, you can see image of an Aedes mosquito. You can observe black color of the body of the mosquito and presence of white strips on the black body as well as on the legs. Due to presence of these white strips on black body and on legs, Aedes mosquito, it is also called as tiger mosquito. Aedes mosquito completes its life cycle in 4 stages: egg, larva, pupa and adult. Female Aedes mosquito lays her eggs singly, and eggs of Aedes mosquito are cigar shaped. Since Aedes mosquito belongs to the tribe Culicini, lateral floats are absent. Larva of Aedes mosquito, it is suspended in water with the head downwards. Larva possess siphon tube which is located on 8th abdominal segment. Larval stage remains for 5 to 7 days. Pupal stage is resting stage, and this stage remains for 1 to 2 days. Please note resting position of Aedes mosquito. Adult Aedes mosquito is day biter. It prefers to bite during daytime, and its flight range is less than 100 meters. What are different breeding places of Aedes mosquito? Aedes mosquito breeds in artificially collected water. For example, water collected in discarded tins, broken bottles, water collected in fire buckets or flower pots, water collected in coconut shells or earthen pots, and even it can breed in tree holes. In addition, Aedes can breed in water collected in vehicle tires. Simply, Aedes prefers to breed in stored water or in collected water. Important species of Aedes mosquito includes Aedes aegypti, Aedes albopictus, and Aedes vittatus. Out of these, Aedes aegypti, it is most important vector and it is the first proven vector of yellow fever. As per International Health Regulations guidelines, Aedes aegypti index is kept 0 at all international airports and all international seaports. Let's see public health importance of Aedes mosquito and what are the diseases transmitted by Aedes mosquito. Aedes mosquito, it is involved in transmission of dengue, dengue hemorrhagic fever, chikungunya fever, chikungunya hemorrhagic fever, Rift Valley fever, and yellow fever and filaria. But in India, Aedes is not involved in transmission of yellow fever and filariasis. Let's see recap of chikungunya. Chikungunya, it is viral infection. It is caused by group A virus and this virus is transmitted by bites of infected female Aedes mosquitoes and clinically chikungunya fever is characterized by severe articular pains or severe joint pains. Causative agent is chikungunya virus and this virus for the first time isolated from patients as well as from mosquitoes in the year 1952 and 53 in Tanzania when there was an epidemic of chikungunya. This virus is widely distributed in sub-Saharan Africa, India, and in many parts of Asia. What is significance of the year 2006? From the year 2006, re-emergence of chikungunya fever was noticed. Although re-emergence of chikungunya fever was noticed till from the year 2006 till 2014, there was decreasing trend or declined trend of chikungunya fever was seen. In the history of chikungunya, the year 2015 is again important. Why it is important? Because since 2015, the frequency of occurrence of chikungunya fever is increased and we can see rising trend or we can see increasing trend or we can see upward trend since the year 2015. In India, the distribution pattern of chikungunya fever is mainly endemic. So this disease is endemic in 24 states and 6 union territories. But during the year 2016, total 64,057 suspected cases were reported and these cases were reported from 28 states. Whereas till 31st 24 suspected cases were reported from 25 states and union territories. As far as place distribution of chikungunya fever is concerned, maximum cases were reported from Karnataka. These cases were 18,093, followed by Gujarat. From Gujarat, 3,027 cases were reported, and from Maharashtra, 2,618 cases were reported, whereas from Punjab, 993 cases were reported. Thus, we can find chikungunya fever mainly in Karnataka, Gujarat, Maharashtra and Punjab. Incubation period of chikungunya fever, it ranges from 4 days to 7 days. This incubation period is followed by sudden onset with fever. Fever is associated with chills. There is cephalgia, anorexia, lumbago, and few patients may have conjunctivitis. In addition, adenopathy can be seen. In about 60 to 80% patients of chikungunya fever, we can see morbilliform rash or maculopapular rash, and occasionally there can be purpura. What is site of the rash? Rash is mainly seen on the trunk and limbs, and these cutaneous eruptions may recur after every 3 to 7 days. The most important and characteristic manifestation of chikungunya fever, it includes arthropathy or joint pains or articular pains. This manifestation, it is mainly seen in adult patients, and it is manifested by pain, swelling and stiffness. So this triad is most important in chikungunya fever. I repeat, there is pain, swelling and stiffness of joints. The joints involvement in chikungunya fever, it includes metacarpophalangeal joints, wrist joints, elbow joints, shoulder joints, knee joints, ankle joints and metatarsal joints. Patient generally complains of joint pains between 3rd and 5th day after onset of clinical symptoms. And the most important thing regarding its duration, these joint pains may persist for several months or even several years. Some patients, they may develop chikungunya hemorrhagic fever, which is characterized by coffee-colored vomiting, or there can be epistaxis, or there can be petechial rash. Thus, clinical manifestations of chikungunya fever, it includes either chikungunya fever or chikungunya hemorrhagic fever. Diagnosis of chikungunya fever, it is based on isolation of virus, and for this intracerebral inoculation is done in suckling mice, or Vero cells can be used for this purpose. For serological diagnosis, the sample of paired sera is used, and the different tests that can be done, it includes heme agglutination inhibition test, complement fixation test, ELISA. ELISA is mainly used for detection of IgM antibodies, or the most important test that can be done is RT-PCR, that is reverse transcription polymerase chain reaction. In majority of cases, chikungunya is self-limiting disease. Regarding its treatment, there is no specific treatment for chikungunya infection. The treatment mainly includes symptomatic treatment where we can use analgesics or antipyretics like paracetamol or diclofenac sodium. Remember, it is very important to avoid drugs like aspirin. For controlling chikungunya, it's very important to focus on its vector. You know, vector of chikungunya is Aedes. Aedes, it is name of the genus, and there are two important species which are involved in transmission of chikungunya virus. These species are Aedes aegypti and Aedes albopictus. So it is very important to control these species in community so that we can control chikungunya fever. For controlling breeding of these mosquitoes, it is very essential to pay attention to water storage containers. So whatever different water storage containers are there, they should be kept free of mosquitoes so that we can prevent breeding of Aedes mosquito. Even attention should be paid to peri-domestic areas. So in peri-domestic areas where there is collection of water, attention should be paid to these collections to prevent breeding of Aedes mosquito. This is part of source reduction. In addition to this, we should have to use anti-larval measures as well as anti-adult measures, including our protection against mosquito bite. The most effective personal protective measure is use of insecticide treated bed nets or mosquito nets. In addition, we can use various repellents, coils, etc. The long-term measures for controlling chikungunya fever, it includes improvement in standard of living and environmental sanitation. Can we prevent chikungunya fever by vaccination? No, there is no vaccine available for prevention of chikungunya fever. So it is very essential we should have to pay attention to its vector, and its vector population must be controlled in our environment so that we can effectively control chikungunya fever in community. It's all about chikungunya fever. Thanks for watching this video.